What's going on, everybody? Welcome down to the Fourth Down Show. I am your host, Kicking It with Keith. This is the AFC West Index Show. Yes, we're in a new division, guys, and we're starting things off with the brand new Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, baby. Let's go. All right, so let's jump right into it. The Raiders finished last year 7-9, improving off their 4-12 season by 3 wins. But in the last 16 years, they've missed. Oh, excuse me. In the last 17 years, they've missed the playoffs 16 times. Listen. Full disclosure, my second favorite team in the NFL is the Raiders. I guess the nostalgia, the black and silver, everything they were back in the day before my time. I love the Raiders. The Raiders were cool. It's been a rough road since their last Super Bowl visit in the early 2000s, with Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice. Um, you know, you had so many throwback players. Charlie Gardner, I'm throwing it back with those names. And we have the second year of John Gruden at the helm. Um, Listen, it's been a very unique year and some change for John Gruden and the Raiders, and they're moving to Las Vegas. It kind of sucks, man. I really feel for all the people out in Oakland. I felt like that was a real good atmosphere for truly loving a team. Oakland usually is really good with that. Fan base is really loyal to their teams. We saw how they were with the Golden State Warriors before they moved out of into the new Oracle Arena. Hell, they show up sometimes for A's games, and I don't even know how you can do that. So yeah, I mean, I really feel for the fans of Oakland. I would have loved to gone and seen the Raiders in Oakland, but they're in Vegas now, and truth be told, I can't wait to see them in Vegas either. We all know it was a money move. They were playing in such a bad stadium, man, with the baseball field, sharing it with the A's, and such a historic franchise. They needed a brand new stadium, man. It was just about time. You know what I'm saying? So listen, let's jump right into the offseason for the Raiders. It was quite different from the prior offseason where we saw a humongous trade involving Khalil Mack and the departure of Amari Cooper, which happened later in the season, 2 seasons ago, and this was quite of a different bit of a feel for what the Raiders were doing. I saw some positives with the Raiders this season. We'll see if they build off it. So jumping right into it, key departures. I only really found 2 huge departures, to be quite fair. Linebacker Tahir Whitehead, who's a pretty serviceable linebacker, had a really good, few years down in Detroit. I thought he did fairly well with you guys. We all know the other linebacker will not name him. He got suspended for the year, and we all know his track record. I think Tahir Whitehead filled the role pretty well. Signal caller did his thing. Don't know what's gonna happen at that slot with him gone. But nonetheless, he is gone, and also safety Carl Joseph, former first-round pick of the Raiders. I actually was really high on Carl Joseph coming out of West Virginia. It just never worked out for him in Oakland, and they did address the safety position in last year's draft, so I guess they're rolling with the youth. It's not like Carl Joseph is old, but he wasn't a Gruden guy. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it's one of those where the new front office is calling the shots. They want their people on the field, and it's just another business decision in the NFL. Now, the Raiders had a huge offseason in terms of additions. They had a lot of pieces that are very integral into filling a roster. But there are some that are a little bit controversial, especially with what's going down in the quarterback position with the addition of Marcus Mariota. Now, I'm not a big Marcus Mariota fan. I actually was fooled by him coming into the NFL from his days in Oregon. I thought this kid is going to be something special, the mobility factor. He was so accurate in the red zone, and that translated into the NFL. I was like, man, this kid is going to do his thing. But, it was like, Rocky Maivia before it turned into The Rock. It was pretty trash. And Marcus Mariota is one of those guys that is going to play super safe football. He's not going to test you. He's not going to, present multiple, problems in terms of throwing the football. He's going to make that read and let it go. Yes, he has some wheels, but he's mistake free. Now, when you're talking about the quarterback position, one thing you want is a mistake free quarterback. Yes, don't get me wrong. I don't want my quarterback turning the ball over. I don't want my quarterback consistently making mistakes. That is true. Marcus Mariota is one of those players that will never attempt any type of situation where it's going to be too high risk. And sometimes you have to make high risk plays in the NFL to be effective and to be called elite or to be called good. And you know what they say about, if you're great, your biggest enemy is being good. And Marcus Mariota was always just good, but just good. Like, not really good, but just good. I've always thought his throwing motion was pretty trash. It was hard to watch, it reminded me back in my days when I would throw eggs on Halloween, to be quite honest with you. It wasn't all that. But when you add a player like this, who used to be I believe a second overall pick, first round pick, and you add a player like this via free agency, you tend to wonder what that means for Derek Carr. Derek Carr, personally, I like him. I've always thought he was a pretty decent quarterback. At one point, we remember a few years back under Coach Del Rio, he looked like an MVP candidate. Since then, though, it's been very up and down, and it's not been very consistent on Derek Carr's part. And, truth be told, there's so many, rumors you hear around the league. There's so many, a little bit of, knocks on him. Like, he doesn't like to get hurt. He's afraid of, testing, DBs downfield. He's terrified of pressure. Check down Carr. You hear these things. And, truth be told, I can't tell you I've watched every single Derek Carr game. I try to watch as much Raider football as I can, because they are my second favorite team in the NFL. But, you look at his numbers at the end of the year. If you just look at it on a piece of paper, you're like, shit, Derek Carr had a pretty good year statistically. But the Raiders weren't good. So when you add a player like Marcus Mariota, you tend to think, well, what the fuck is going on? Listen, we're going to find out in a few weeks, okay? Raider Nation, I don't think you want Marcus Mariota as your starting quarterback, but ask yourself this question. Do you want Derek Carr as your starting quarterback, moving forward the next 3-4 years? Do you want to give Derek Carr more money? Because you gave him a big contract early on, and it really hasn't translated into wins. Not to sidetrack, but I feel like Sam Darnold with the Jets is like Derek Carr. I feel like he might actually have a really good statistical year, and it might not look great. The numbers tell you so many different stories, and depending on what story you pick out of the numbers, that's what you're gonna evaluate the player and the team on. Listen, moving on, we got a replacement for Tahir Whitehead in Corey Littleton. Corey Littleton with the Rams was solid. Remember, Corey Littleton was a special teams linebacker who earned his way to starting on the Rams. To earn your way to starting on the Rams from playing special teams, that just shows you the type of caliber of effort you're going to get with a player like Corey Littleton. I'm a big fan of his. He fits the John Gruden mold, or the Gruden grinder, all that good shit, and I thought that was actually a really sneaky pickup. So I think Corey Littleton's going to be calling the plays on defense, being the quarterback there, and that's a great pickup. I love it. Now, this one is a little bit confusing. I don't know where they were going with this, but they also signed Maga Witten. And if you don't know who Maga Witten is, Jason Witten. I don't know why. Where is he going to play? Right tackle, point two? What is he doing? I mean, he fits the mold if Derek Carr is going to check it down. And we all know Marcus Mariota loves to throw it to the tight ends because Lord knows he's allergic to wide receivers. So, it looks good scheme-wise. I don't know if he has anything left in the tank. We'll see. They also added running back Rod Smith from the Dallas Cowboys. They also added a receiver who cannot catch it, Nelson Aguilar. Also added another linebacker, Kyle Wilbur. Defensive end, Carl Nassib. Another Dallas Cowboy player, safety, Jeff Heath, who a little bit of a Gruden grinder as well. So there's a little bit of a trend here. DB, Demarius Randall. Cornerback Prince Amukamara, another little bit of a Gruden grinder type feel. There's a little bit of a trend. Like these guys, they'll play a lot of downs. They'll do the little things, like maybe block or maybe just get the call right on the field, like especially on defense, little things like that. It just comes across like Gruden is really getting his fingerprints on this roster. And they also had one opt-out due to the COVID-19 situation in Devontae Booker. If you remember, Devontae Booker was a little bit of a role player in the backfield for the Broncos. They're not losing much there. We all know Josh Jacobs is the stud in Oakland. All right, now moving on to the draft. Now, the draft is a little bit of a big story for the Raiders. Also, if I keep calling them Oakland, please, sorry. Let me know in the comments because I'm sorry. That's just going to be very difficult to, like, shake off, man. I've always known them as the Oakland Raiders. To call them the Vegas Raiders, it's going to take some time. All right? So, listen, the Raiders had a very interesting draft. They kind of made a big splash by selecting the first wide receiver. That was not Jerry Jeudy. That was definitely not CeeDee Lamb. They selected Henry Ruggs III. Now, that fits the mold of what a Raider wide receiver is. A speed demon. Absolute speed demon. Now, if you look, you pay close attention to the AFC West, Tyreek Hill, Jerry Jeudy, guys like McCole Hardman. Keenan Allen's not that fast, but, respectable wide receiver. Cortland Sutton. If you look at it, a lot of these guys are playing off the trend of what Kansas City kind of put together. Speed demons. Wide receivers who could get down the field if you want to push the ball down the field. Now, we all know Derek Carr is a little bit of a check down freak. Henry Ruggs pushing the ball downfield, it could eliminate that whole type of stereotype that Derek Carr has. Whether it's going to be effective, don't know, but you don't need to always throw deep to Henry Ruggs III, which is a beautiful thing. In Alabama, he'll take a screen 70 yards. You see Tyreek Hill do that all the time. So I love that draft pick. That is going to be such a huge addition to this team, and I think it's going to really help the Raiders out a lot. I don't know if it's going to translate in wins, but to move the change, to keep the drive moving, Henry Ruggs is going to get targets, man. And, for the fantasy players out there, that looks like the first wide receiver I'm taking in terms of, like, the rookies. Moving on in the second round, Damon Arnett out of the Ohio State University. Now, if you recall, Jeff Okudah was the first cornerback taken, and he also was from Ohio State. Opposite of him was Arnett. And Arnett, pretty good tackler, another Gruden-type grinder. He's not going to talk much, not flashy. He's going to get in there, do his job. Coverage issues, we'll see on the NFL level. After him, Lynn Bowden Jr., wide receiver out of Kentucky. Brian Edwards, another wide receiver out of South Carolina. As you can see, there's a trend going on here, guys. Wide receivers, consistent, like pushing the ball, just up-tempo offense. This is a thing now in the NFL. Now, wide receivers are not going to win you Super Bowls, but quarterbacks are. And when you get the quarterback the appropriate help, this is exactly what you want in a top-tier offense. So that's going to bode exactly well for the Oakland Raiders. Moving on, Tanner Muse, safety, Clemson. Another Clemson player, John Simpson. And they finish up with Amik Robinson, who I actually know a little bit about. Amik Robinson, small corner, could do the job, man. He's a grinder. He's going to give you everything he has. And to get him with your last pick in the draft, I would not be surprised if he's the starting nickel. Truth be told. So you got a few wide receivers there. You got a few secondary players there. And you can tell what they're trying to do. They're trying to match up on both sides of the ball to pretty much go against the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers. So that's exactly what you want to do. You want to win your division. You got to match up with your division. Let's move on to the depth chart. And as you can see here, obviously we have Derek Carr at the quarterback position. Star second year running back Josh Jacobs. I love everything I saw out of Josh Jacobs last year. Josh Jacobs, do it all running back. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to run through the tackles. He's really good at goal line. He's not going to talk. He's not flashy. He's going to lower the helmet and put you on your ass. I love everything about Josh Jacobs. Another sneaky fantasy pick out there, guys. At the wide receiver position, we have Tyrell Williams on the outside. And we have opposite of him, Henry Ruggs III, who we mentioned earlier. Speed demon. And truth be told, you might see him truly be the cog of this offense outside of Josh Jacobs. Henry Ruggs is going to put a lot of pressure on guys, man. Listen, I'm very excited to see how that's going to unfold in Oakland. As you can see in the slot, we have Hunter Renfrow. Do it all slot receiver. You know where you're getting with Hunter Renfrow. Pretty tough cover, to be quite honest with you. A special player that I really like is Darren Waller, who came onto the scene last season. Really, really was big time for the Raiders. He wasn't even predicted to even make the roster, let alone be one of the best tight ends in football. So I'm very excited to see another year of Darren Waller. Up front, you got a really nice offensive line. You got Colton Miller, Richie Incognito, Rodney Hudson, who's maybe a top three center who gets no respect. Rodney Hudson is truly, truly a pro's pro. Gabe Jackson and Trent Brown, the humongous right tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now let's move on to the defense. Base 3-4. We're rolling with I really have a horrible time trying to pronounce this man's name. But this is a second-year player, Clean Farrell. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry, Raider fans. Clean Farrell at the edge. You got Malik Collins and Jonathan Hankins clogging up the middle. Max Crosby, who came onto the scene really big last season. I am so excited to see another year of Max Crosby. Clean Farrell, Max Crosby as your bookends. That just screams old school football. Just get after the quarterback. I'm really excited about Max Crosby, and Max Crosby can play the run. Right now he's out due to the COVID-19 exposure situation. He's on like the exposure list, but fingers crossed he'll be safe to return to the team and join them during training camp. At the not at the wide receiver position. We're on defense. Keith, wake up. At the linebacker position in the middle, where we got newly added Corey Littleton. Opposite of him, you have Nick Quataus. I don't even know what I'm saying. Nick K. Opposite of him, Nicholas Morrow. I'm gonna be real with you. All I know is Nick was with the Bears, and Nicholas Morrow I have to watch more of. At the cornerback position, Trayvon Mullen and Prince Amukamara. The rookie Damon Arnett will probably be starting at nickel, but don't be surprised if Amik Robinson, finds his way onto the field in some fashion. Don't know how, but keep in mind that kid's a baller. We have Jonathan Abraham returning back to the safety position. He was a really big character on last season's Hard Knocks. Has a little bit of a Jamal Adams profile on him. We'll see what we get, if we can get a full season out of him. He got hurt relatively early on. And Demarius Randall, newly added DB to the fray. And now let's quickly jump into the schedule for the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, Las Vegas. We're starting off on the road at Carolina. Week 2 at home, New Orleans Saints. Week 3 on the road to New England. Week 4 at home to Buffalo. Week 5, you're heading to see the champion Chiefs. Week 6 on a bye. Week 7 at home to Tampa Bay. Week 8 at Cleveland, and following up with another road trip at Los Angeles Chargers. Week 10 at home to the Broncos, following up with another home game against the Chiefs. Week 12 at Atlanta. Week 13 at the Jets. Week 14 at home against the Colts, and then following up with another few home games at home with the Chargers and Dolphins coming to town, and finishing up on the road week 17 at Denver. I know I ran through that pretty quickly, but there's a lot of good teams on that schedule. I don't know how many games the Raiders are going to be favored in, to be quite honest with you. So we have a lot to see. This is pretty much the make or break year for Derek Carr. And even if Marcus Mariota steps on the field at all, and even starts a game, gets a few games under his belt, that doesn't bode well for the quarterback position in Oakland. I truly believe that this team is not going to go into a brand new stadium and a brand new city and stink up the joint to try and get more draft picks. I just can't see it. But it's always hard to transition to a new city. So, listen, Vegas / Raider, Oakland Raider fan base. I'm not sure what we're going to get out of the Raiders this year. I'm going to just go out on a limb. Probably going to win 5 games, maybe 6. We'll see, because I kind of know what we got in Derek Carr. I don't know how this roster gets elevated. The one kind of element that I really want to see that can change this roster is Henry Ruggs III. And to have that much pressure on a brand new wide receiver entering the fray. That's a lot on a roster. So let's see what John Gruden has up his sleeve for year number 2. And who knows, maybe, if this doesn't bode well for him going to a new city and everything, he may be on the hot seat. And they gave him a huge deal. So we'll wait and see with that. And, they're entering a brand new stadium in a brand new city. That's always tough for everyone. So we'll see. All right, guys, listen, that was the AFC Index Show Las Vegas Raiders edition. Please like and subscribe below. Next week, we're jumping into the Los Angeles Chargers. And there's a lot to talk about with a rookie quarterback in the fray over there. All right, guys, be easy, and you already know what it is. Legends are made on 4th down. I holla.